Good evening, and welcome to the Planning Commission of the City of Moreno Valley. I now call this meeting to order on December 12th, 2019 at 7:03 p.m. May we now have a roll call.
Here.
Commissioner Stefan,
Present.
Commissioner Harris,
Here.
Commissioner DeJournette,
Here.
Commissioner Corsick,
Present.
Vice Chairperson Baker,
Here.
Chairperson Sims.
Here. Okay, the Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Commissioner Harris.
Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioner Harris. We are now going to move to the approval of tonight's agenda. Do we have a motion?
I'll move to approve the agenda as submitted.
All right, we have a first by Commissioner Baker, a second by Commissioner Bergeris. Please vote. All right, we're off to a good start, 7-0. Okay. All right, this is the public comments procedure. Any person wishing to address the commission on any matter, either under the public comment sections of the agenda or scheduled items or public hearings, must fill out a request to speak form available at the door. The completed form must be submitted to the secretary prior to the agenda item being called by the chairperson. In speaking to the commission, member of the public may be limited to 3 minutes per person, except for the applicant for entitlement. The commission may establish an overall time limit for comments on a particular agenda item. Members of the public must direct their questions to the chairperson of the commission and not to other members of the commission, the applicant, the staff, or the audience. Is there any public comment on anything not on the agenda?
No, sir.
Okay. All right. So the next is motion to approve the consent calendar, which is item number 1 is the minutes from the November 14th meeting.
I move we approve.
All right.
I'll second.
All right. We have a first by Commissioner Korzak, a second by Commissioner Baker. Although, please cast your vote. All right, things are still going in 7-0. Moving right along. The next item on the agenda are the non-public hearing items, and item number 1 is a request from the Moreno Valley Unified School District for a report related to the sale of land. So can we have staff report, please?
Good evening, Chair Sims, members of the Planning Commission. The item was placed on the agenda to respond to a request by the Moreno Valley Unified School District for a report regarding the sale of 2 adjacent parcels. As described in state law, the city is required to provide a report regarding conformity to the city's general plan when a school district acquires or disposes of property. The property is located in the southwestern portion of the city on the north side of Cactus Avenue at Wilmot Avenue, or Wilmot Street. The 2 parcels comprise 10.1 acres and designated as public, which is the purple area of the site. As you can see, the site is largely surrounded by residential to the north and west, which is currently under construction, and primarily vacant residential uses further to the east. Within this particular general plan designation and the corresponding zoning, the permitted uses are primarily limited to schools and other public facilities. However, other conditionally permitted uses are allowed within that zone, including churches, assisted living facilities, and daycare centers. The disposition of the property would be consistent with the public general plan designation and zoning if developed consistent with current city requirements. However, if the desire is to pursue a different use, such as residential, then a general plan amendment and change of zone would be required. There is the potential opportunity to consider the general plan designation through the city's general plan update process as well, which I have passed along to the school district, and that process just got underway last month. Staff recommends that the Planning Commission take the following action: adopt the conclusions as set forth in the staff report regarding the real property disposition by the Moreno Valley Unified School District. With that, I'll open it up to questions of the Planning Commission.
Any questions of staff?
They're going to be selling this property? That's what you said. Who are they selling it to?
That is correct. I don't believe we have a representative from the school district here, but my understanding is they're selling it to a private party, and that right now they don't have, well, they're working with a potential buyer, but they don't have a buyer at the moment.
But do you know if the school had to go through, like, other public agencies, offer it up for surplus to other public agencies prior to doing just a straight sale?
My understanding, they'd be following whatever the law requires, which this is a part of that, but I'm not familiar with whether they had to take that particular step or not.
Any other questions of staff on this item? Okay, so do we have anybody from Moreno Valley Unified School District here to speak on behalf of this? It doesn't look like it, so.
They were invited to the meeting, but I don't see their representative here.
Okay. Do we have any public comments regarding this specific item?
No, sir.
Okay. So with that, then we'll move on to deliberations on the staff. Or, excuse me, deliberations of the commissioners, excuse me.
I'm glad that the school board is selling a pretty good property, because by looking at the diagram, it's butted up against other houses. So there is a potential of other homes coming there in the future. I don't know who the buyer is. I know that we heard the case planner tell us the options of what can be built there. If it changes, then they'll come to us, the new buyer, and then we'll see if we have to rezone it to meet that condition. But again, it's a nice site when I went to look at it, and it's wonderful because, again, I would like to see a developer hopefully will finish it up on that corner with some new homes. That's just my thinking, and that's what I like about the sale of this particular property.
As far as the conclusion and the way Mr. Ormsby explained it, it sounds like as long as, the property has an opportunity to be developed consistent with the current zoning and general plan, and if it's sold and whoever buys it wants to do something different, then they can come through an entitlement process and move forward. So the commission would have another shot at this if they so choose to do something different. So do we have do we have anybody making a motion to adopt the conclusions as recommended?
I'll move to adopt the conclusions of as set forth in the staff report regarding the real property disposal by the Moreno Valley Unified School District.
I'll second.
So we had Commissioner Baker first and Commissioner Korzek. You got that one in just by nose. All right. Let's have first and second. Please vote. Okay, we have 7 yeses. It passes. Do we have a staff wrap-up?
This is on informational item only, Chair Sims and Commissioners. your recommendation will be forwarded to the school district.
Very good, thank you. All right, the next item on agenda is a public hearing item. It's conditional use permit for Treehouse, a retail cannabis dispensary. Can we have the staff report, please?
Chair Sims and Commissioners, Contract Planner Guarcino will make the staff presentation this evening.
Good evening, Chairman and members of the Planning Commission. I'll be giving the staff report tonight for conditional use permit 190054 for the Treehouse, which is a retail cannabis dispensary located at 24081 Postal Avenue. The site is located north of Sunnymead Boulevard and east of Heacock Street. The zoning for the site is located within the Village Specific Plan, SP 204, more specifically within the Village Commercial Retail, the VCR zone. Retail cannabis dispensaries are an allowed use in this zone with approval of a conditional use permit, which is before you tonight for consideration. The Treehouse will occupy an existing standalone commercial building with a total of 2,528 square feet. The single-story building is accessed by two driveways on Postal, serving an east and west parking lot, each with its own separate driveway. The use requires 12 parking spaces, and the site will provide a total of 15 parking spaces in a refurbished parking lot, which would include upgrades such as revised striping, revised entrances to the easterly parking lot, the larger lot on the east, additional landscape planters, and complete re-landscaping of the entire site, as well as improved ADA access and a new trash enclosure. Other site improvements will include repairs to the existing block wall on the south end of the property. The floor plan includes a customer lobby, secured receptionist check-in area, controlled access to the retail dispensary, and secure back office uses, including a receiving room, a vault, office space, security room, and a break area. The project has met all the requirements in the code for security and safety plans. The elevations for the building will receive a distinctive paint treatment to evoke a modern, energetic vibe. Equipment screening will be placed on the roof to conceal existing and proposed roof-mounted equipment. Taken together with the parking lot and landscape improvements, the site will receive a complete makeover. Before we move on to the recommendations, I just want to point out that in the staff report, we indicated that customers from 18 and over with a prescription would be allowed at the site, consistent with Title V of the Municipal Code. Customers are limited to 21 or over, and that has been reflected accurately in the resolution before you. With that, move on to the staff resolution. Staff recommends that the Planning Commission approve the resolution before you, certifying that the conditional use permit is categorically exempt from CEQA as an existing facility, and approving the conditional use permit subject to the attached conditions of approval included in your Exhibit A. I'd be happy to answer any questions you'd have, and I believe the applicant is in the audience tonight.
Thank you. Is there questions of staff, of the commissioners? Commissioner Harris.
Yes. I guess I just wanted to make sure that everybody knew that the Bureau of Cannabis Control, they have changed all references to marijuana to cannabis. You won't even find it listed in the whole. So sometimes in our municipal code or in our, let's see, what is it, the conditions of approval, there are places like number 27 it says waste and storage and disposal of marijuana and cannabis products. I think it's redundant to say both marijuana and cannabis, because marijuana is just a slang term for cannabis. The proper term is cannabis.
Is that a question you want to, or?
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
just wondering if
Yes,
there's a way that the
I would agree.
municipal code can be changed.
I would agree with you, but for the time being, it's our recommendation that both words be used just during the transition of the law from using the one term and the other. Some of the older laws still say marijuana in them.
Oh, well,
Some of the newer stuff says cannabis. So in an abundance of caution and to avoid any confusion, we're still listing both
Okay, because
words in our
all
codes.
the law from the state now says
The
cannabis.
new law, yes.
As, well, I think it was as.
But there's still some older things that reference marijuana, and because we want to foreclose those arguments, it's just in an abundance of caution to make sure there's not any loopholes or any arguments that this law says marijuana and this one says cannabis. We're just, it's no harm to have both in there, and eventually, you're right, we'll probably see that go away, and just the word term cannabis will be probably more uniformly used.
Okay, and let's see, what else did I have?
Any other questions or staff clarifications?
I have a question. On the graphics on the building, I find them really interesting and clever, but you probably saw me smile. Are there any restrictions in our code about what can be put on the side of buildings, this amount of color, this amount of, I'm unfamiliar.
Our code is silent in terms of the amount of colors or, features that can be added to a building such as this.
As a customer, how would I know what this is? I know you can't put certain words on the front of a building, but to me, it says treehouse. Well, I almost think in my mind it might be a playground for children. I just question, is there anything else going on the front of this that would let a person from the street know what was going on there?
So there are specific words that are not allowed to be used in terms of the signage to state actually cannabis or marijuana. That's actually part of our municipal code standards. In terms of the name Tree House, I don't know that there is something else that we could put out there, because we're trying, the whole point of the municipal code and the signage code is to not openly advertise that it's that type of business within the neighborhood.
I just see a confusion on the part of some people walking by and having a curiosity and trying to go in with their children thinking it's a playground or a play center or something like that. It's very, the graphics are really interesting. I just didn't know if there was any sort of code on that. It for me.
Any other comments, questions, clarifications, Commission, to the staff?
Number 37, conditions of approval. It talks about licensee shall prohibit loitering by individuals outside the licensed premises or anywhere on the property. What, anywhere on the property, what, if you've got like a big area that this is, it falls right in the middle.
This is a freestanding site, so all of the landscaping, parking for this building is not shared with anyone else.
Right. Well, this
So-
particular project isn't an issue, but I've seen some other ones where, it's like right in the middle of a big shopping center. And is the cannabis dispensary, are they responsible for the whole area, or is there some, it just doesn't seem like it's very well defined.
So with a lot of the shopping centers that we have, there actually are internally subdivided based off of, tenant areas and suite areas where they are independent parcels unto themselves. So in the writing of this condition, we are looking to them to ultimately monitor their property. A number of the applicants have come in and identified that they will work with management ultimately to police the larger property as a whole and work with them in terms of the security that the overall center has. So
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions of staff?
I have a question. I'm noticing that in this area per se, there's going to be quite a few cannabis shops. Is there anything stating that there should be such a concentration in certain areas, or should they be kind of spread out more?
we do not have a separation requirement for cannabis businesses one to another. There are separation requirements for other uses, but not cannabis uses from one to another.
Why not?
I would have, I don't know if, Paul, do you have anything?
Well, I would say part of that has to do with the limited areas in which we've actually allowed cannabis businesses to go into in locations and the number of permits which the council has allowed for. And I think to do any kind of buffer between cannabis businesses limit the number of businesses far beyond that which council has set forth. That's loosely why I would think that it came to that point.
Okay, I'm just questioning it because I did get a phone call about that, and they asked me why there were quite a few, a couple more than one or two in a certain area.
Yeah, I think it has to do with the total. If you take the total number of cannabis permits that were allowed, and if you look at a zoning map of the very, very few parcels that are actually allowed to do it by the zoning restrictions, if you put an additional burden on that of proximity to each other, you'd find that there may only be 3 or 4 parcels in the city that could actually allow for it.
Just saying, you don't want like
Yeah, we would have
liquor
to.
store and then another liquor store and then
Right.
another liquor store, and, this is kind of like
We
a,
would have to either reduce the number of permits that we're allowing, which is something council established, or we would have to open up the available zones in which and areas within which their business services are allowed. Because remember, they are restricted and buffered by other uses, kid-sensitive areas and child care centers and that kind of thing. So that buffer already exists and limits them in addition to the limits we've already set forth.
I was just thinking I think the next one's going to be kind of close in proximity too.
Yep.
Okay.
That's the beauty of capitalism. Free market will determine who stands at the end. Any other questions or? Okay, it's if the applicant would like to make a presentation or.
Thank you. Kevin Wolf, 7095 Indiana Avenue in Riverside, Suite 100. Applicant / developer / builder. On behalf of Cannabis Group, myself and my partner Rami Tahan, we're happy to be here, happy to have had the chance to work with an amazing group of folks getting this project to this point. We started this process a year and a half ago. December of last year, we received our conditional license from the city, and at that point we started the process to basically design and develop the project so that it could be used for the intended use. Obviously not an easy thing, taking some buildings that have been here since my childhood. Actually grew up here, and our family helped incorporate the city back in the 80s. So happy to be back in Moreno Valley doing business. We are agreeable to the conditions set forth. These are conditions that we have worked with city staff intimately on to get the project to work and make it something that's going to be an asset to the community. We're delighted to bring a design on the project that I think will be somewhat iconic, and if implemented properly, it will be something people would look to as something on how to do a project such as this. We own Green America in Paris. I would say, to the question of having projects like this next to each other, there are 4 next to each other in Paris. Actually works quite well as far as it's a little interesting with driveways and competition, but as far as land use goes, I'm a developer too. It's actually quite compatible. It works very well. And I would actually invite anybody if they wanted to see what a operating facility does look like and how it does work in the area. We're down in Paris, Green America. It is not what you think these things were. It wasn't when we started 3 years ago. Over 50% of our customers are 50 and older. Over 50% of our customers come in for CBD only. That is the non-psychoactive part of the plant. Looking to fix aches and pains and all the things we all deal with every day instead of taking handfuls of aspirin. So, again, in agreement with the conditions set forward, and I appreciate your time and opportunity to bring the project to the city.
Thank you. Questions of the applicant?
I have one or two. Mr. Wolf, since you already agreed that you are okay with all the conditions, I always look at the cases and I remind myself what's important to the community and to you as the applicant. And the one that I'm going to read out, and I already heard you say that you agreed to it, and I don't think you're going to have any trouble with it, but again, I like to hear it again.
Sure.
Okay, it's number 16. All city fire, police, and code personnel shall have unlimited restrictions, property access for inspections of commercial concubine businesses and facilities during business hours. You have no trouble with that. That they will be able to go, and if there's a crime, be able to go and pull the tape, the surveillance, to be able to solve the crime in that area.
Well, actually, the way the rules were written in the city of Moreno Valley relative to other cities or jurisdictions in at least the Southern California area, they're very intense. They actually, the conditions for these projects in the city give access to the police department, and our cameras are on the police department system. So at any point, a police officer, and I'm not sure how that's monitored on the back end, but has full access to cameras in the
So
building.
you have no trouble with it at all, number 16?
I think it's a little invasive, but that's the conditions in Moreno Valley.
Good enough for me. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments of the applicant? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, at this time, we will close the public hearing and move on to wait a minute here. Are there any, do we have any public comments on this item?
No, sir.
Okay. Now I'll close the public hearing. All right, and so that means it's time to deliberate. Being deliberators?
If this project is approved, I think it has a very unique design on the outside, and I like it. It'll be different from anything else, and maybe it'll actually encourage some of the other areas in that to maybe improve their lots and stuff. So, yeah, I think it's good.
I have a question. Do we actually have any, we've seen a bunch of these come through. Are any of these actually open yet in Moreno Valley?
No, none of the businesses are open at this time. Some are coming close to finishing up their building permitting process. A number of them are going through the state processes, but we do not have anybody with an actual physical building permit at this time doing their build out just yet.
Thank you. Any other?
I do, sir.
Oh, okay.
I went by the project Monday, and I was able to look at something that's been there for quite a while, since a lot of us go to the post office and we all look across the street. And I seen the fence around it, and I got out of the truck, I went across the street, and I walked around it, and I saw the building. And the next thing I did was take out the blueprint. And I was glad to see the color, how he's going to take something that's been there so long and revise it. And hopefully it would do what his other business has done, help others with the CBD, those that have pain. And besides also bring employment to those that live in the city of Moreno Valley. So I look forward to seeing the color, the name Treehouse. I would have never thought of a playground or a playhouse like the commissioner, but I know that the security guard will deter the young parent or the kid that's walking in that is not a treehouse of pleasure. I thought it was a nursery when I saw the name first. So, but I'm glad that we're taking old buildings and we're revising them, and I'm glad that we have applicants and entrepreneurs that are picking Moreno Valley to start their businesses. So I look forward to see this project one day get done. So the post office, when we all get out of the post office on Postal, we can see something nice across the street.
Okay, does that glowing recommendation come with a motion? No, does it come with a motion?
I motion this project. So where do you read it at? In the back?
Page 32.
Okay, I got it. Okay. This is my first time, so I motion this project. I certify that the condition use permit 19-0054 is categorically exempt from the provision of the California Environment Quality Act as a Class 1 exemption, Section 15301, exceeding facility, and approval condition use permit 190054, subject to the attachment condition of approval includes as Exhibit A to the resolution.
Just to be clear, Commissioner, are you recommending they moving to approve Resolution 2019-44?
Yes, I'm sorry. That's
you.
the top, yes.
Perfect. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a first and a second. Please vote.
Yes, sir.
It was approved, 7-0. Do we have a staff wrap-up?
Yes, Chair Sims. The action taken this evening by the Planning Commission is an appealable action. So therefore, any interested party who would like to file an appeal may do so within 15 days of this action. Excuse me, if an appeal is filed, it must be in writing and directed to the Community Development Director stating the specific reasons for the appeal along with the appeal filing fee of $750. If any appeal is received, it will be agendized for a public hearing before the City Council within 30 days of that appeal.
Okay, thank you. All right, we're moving on to our next item on the action agenda, and that is a master plot plan for a 7,250 square foot multi-tenant commercial building and conditional use permit for a retail cannabis dispensary called From the Earth, and it's a CUP EEN 19-0076 in a 6,300 square foot tenant space located on the south side of Sunnymead Boulevard at Backway. Can we have staff report, please?
Good evening, Chairman, members of the Planning Commission, Jerry Guarcino, Contract Planner, and I'll be presenting staff's report today for the master plot plan for development of a multi-tenant commercial building and the conditional use permit to operate a retail cannabis dispensary. The location of the project will be on the south side of Sunnymead Boulevard. It will occupy a currently vacant site, and it will be new construction. It is located just south or in aligned with Backway. The main entrance to the project will align with that controlled intersection. And here we are showing the zoning for the site. So the site's located in the village-specific plan, number 204, more specifically, the Village Commercial Residential Zone. Within that zone, a multi-tenant commercial building is a permitted use. And within that zone, the retail cannabis dispensary would require a conditional use permit, which is before you this evening for consideration. The site plan for the project would allow the development of a 7,250 square foot multi-tenant commercial building in the northwest corner of the site. It is located adjacent to Sunnymead Boulevard. It has a strong pedestrian connection to the boulevard, which is one of the main precepts of the specific plan. The project will have an enhanced pavement in the driveway entrance and will provide parking for 60, where'd my notes go? Will provide parking for 69 vehicles. The required parking for the size of the building is only 42 spaces, so there's more than adequate parking for the use. Additionally, landscaping will cover about 30% of the site for a total of 17,472 square feet. The site provides numerous improvements to what's there, as well as connection to the adjacent site. So in addition to the primary entrance aligning with back way, the circulation is designed to take advantage of connection to the adjacent property to the west and a secondary and access to a secondary entrance on the west side of the property, which is shared with the property next door, which is an existing commercial facility. The floor plan shows that there's space for two tenant suites. The major suite is going to be the location for the future or the proposed cannabis distribution center, and that will occupy 6,030 square feet. A smaller 1,220 square foot retail space has also been provided at the northwest corner of the building. It will have good visibility from the street and have covered pergolas in front of it. And so this building will provide space for additional tenants in the future. The CUP that's being requested would authorize commercial cannabis, as I said, in a little over 6,000 square feet. The facility would provide a customer lobby, a secured check-in reception counter, limited access display and sales area, interior secured loading spaces. It's one of the nice features of a new construction. The secured parking that's required in the code in this facility is actually provided indoors as opposed to existing spaces on the exterior. In addition, this new construction will also provide short-term parking on the exterior of the building along Sunnymead Boulevard, short-term bicycle parking along Sunnymead Boulevard, as well as long-term parking for employees that will be located within the structure itself. So it does implement a number of our new development standards and is consistent with this specific plan. So all required security and safety procedures have been met for the operation of the cannabis facility. The elevations of the facility they have provided masonry columns and wood trellises, accent tile wainscoting, stucco that is in a light natural color, and additional lighting and accent materials. So this should be a very complementary design to the existing structures on Sunnymead Boulevard. With that, staff recommends that you certify the attached resolution approving the master plot plan, certifying that the master plot plan is consistent with the California Environmental Quality Act, and this is based on a Class 32 exemption for infill projects. Adopt Resolution 2019-45 to approve the plot plan. Additionally, certify that the cannabis operations are exempt from CEQA for the same class exemption, and adopt Resolution 201946 approving the conditional use permit, subject to the attached conditions of approval. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Also, the applicant is in the audience this evening.
Any questions to staff? I noticed on the condition 21, it's talking about a wall and fence plans. What's the perimeter fencing going to be around the project?
So, there we go. There will be block wall fencing on the south and on the east, and it's open and unfenced on the west. And that's basically because it's connected to the adjacent retail development there.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, staff? No? Okay, can we hear from the applicant, please?
Good evening, Jeremy Kraut, EPD Solutions, applicant representative. Thank you, Chair and staff, for hearing the item tonight, and I want to take a brief moment to thank the staff here that you have. They worked exceptionally well through a number of challenges with building a new building. As you can imagine, it's one of the first of this type, proposing a building as well. And obviously new buildings anywhere is challenging, and especially infill conditions. So your staff worked really well with the project team to really come through and create a nice looking and I think a consistent or compatible project in the area. We're just really excited to be here this evening and to be considered. It's a lot of investment into this area, and a new building I think that will look good and add, as you heard from Mr. Corsino, the features that you can add in a new building with in relationship to this type of use here, and then provide future opportunities for retail use along the frontage. So again, very happy to be here, and we do approve of and have no concern with the conditions of approval that are before you this evening. Happy to answer any other questions, and thank you again.
On the fencing on the west side of the property, so that I was looking at my my Google here, and so is there some kind of a reciprocal access, or is there any kind of arrangement between this property and the adjacent property where it requires?
Well, there is a reciprocal access agreement that's on the property. The drive, which I don't know if you want to pull up an aerial or anything to go over it in more detail, but the drive is mostly on this project site, and so the access is granted to the neighbor for use of that access, for use of that drive.
Because it looks like the property is next to it, except for what's up against Indian or Sunnymead. It's all vacant property. Goes all the way back, all the way to Webster.
No,
No?
no.
Is that,
There's an adjacent property. that's
vacant
next to it.
behind it.
where's it? Let's see. Yeah, that's what I'm, but, yeah.
The
Yeah.
Another vacant property there.
Right, but it's all vacant though, down the,
Right.
so
Right.
just a concern for security, people seem like they could walk, anyhow.
But there's a block wall on the south,
Backside,
on the backside.
gonna be a block.
Right, but there's no fencing along the west property.
No.
Yeah, okay,
I see what you're saying. All of that is vacant.
yeah. Anyhow, there's reciprocal requirements, though, that's run with the property that has to have access. Okay.
Right, that's correct.
Any other questions of the applicant?
I was just wondering, your operating hours from 9 to 10. If you had business before 9 o'clock in the morning, like, and you know, if you left it like this, you wouldn't be able to open till 9. But if you changed it to 6 to 10, you could still open at 9 o'clock, but you could never open, I believe, before 9 o'clock if that's the way it is here. Does that make sense?
You're saying that because the conditions of approval
Because you have it down here that you're going to operating between 9 and 10. If you could actually say from 6 to 10, and then if you ever wanted to open earlier, you could, but you wouldn't have to. I think that's the way it is, yeah.
I guess the plan wasn't to open any earlier than that. The employees would come before then to set up the facility, so it wouldn't be open to the public before then. I guess for flexibility purposes, if there was no concern, that'd be fine. There would be there wasn't any plan for that, but the retail space, you're speaking to just the CUP for the dispensary use. The
Right.
retail space, that use doesn't have a planned hours yet, and so it'd likely be different than
Yeah,
that.
I'm just
so,
talking about the dispensary.
I guess if staff and planning commission were open to having it at an earlier time, there wasn't a plan for it, but we'd be happy to have more flexibility, the better. There is still time that the employees have to come on site, open the facility, unlock the doors, and all sorts of things that have to happen before opening hours. But I appreciate the consideration, Commissioner.
A little more flexibility.
I appreciate that. Sure.
On that note, if Planning Commission does want to make a decision to amend the condition of approval, it would just need to be read into the action that you make on the conditional use permit resolution stating the hours. The earliest it can be is 6 a.m.
So with 6 a.m., because I know in the resolution that were approved by the mayor and the council members, they're entitled to start business at 6 in the morning and no later than 10. So if they choose to open at 9, 11, that's their choice. But they can start at 6 in the morning because that is in the conditions. Those are in the resolutions that have been passed already.
Yes, the condition that is written in the resolution currently reflects the request of the applicant. If the Planning Commission wants to extend the hours and that's acceptable to the applicant, that would be certainly something that you could do, as long as you didn't set the hours earlier than 6 a.m.
I think what Commissioner Harris was trying to say was that if the applicant just says he's going to be open from 9 to 10, later on he can't come back and say, I'm going to open at 7, because we've already approved it from 9 to 10. And he was kind of trying to
That's exactly what
help
I
him
was
out.
trying to
And we
say.
appreciate that.
Yeah,
Definitely. So
and I guess, I don't know.
That's exactly what I was.
I extend my thank you to you. But yeah, if the
You
commission
know,
is
it's
so
just
concerned-
giving you a little more leeway.
And you could still open at 9,
Yes.
but
Yeah.
but if you left it like this, you couldn't open at 8.
Right. Yeah. We'd be,
Or 7.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
maybe you've got lots of business then, who knows?
Yeah. We appreciate that.
Any other questions of the applicant?
Wondering, this is going to be new construction. Are you going to be hiring local?
Yes, the business From the Earth is very focused on local hiring. They do look for pools of employees nearby because proximity matters. Happier people tend to be when they don't drive a lot, and so and stuck in traffic. So they really do make a focus of, or put a lot of effort into local hiring in this area.
Okay.
Other comments, questions of the applicant? Okay,
Thank you very much.
Are there any, anybody in the, any comments from the public
Yes, sir.
speakers?
Ray Ritchie.
Hello, I'm the apartment manager for the apartment right behind this facility, so I'm very familiar with the area, and a few comments which I missed. First of all, on to the west of it on Sunnymead, there's a recycling facility which attracts very interesting people. And if you talk to the gym right next to it, they even have stories about it, which a lot of interesting people around going to that recycling facility because it attracts certain clientele, which is a headache. There's also a major homeless issue, which I'd be interested to hear what the applicant's going to do about that, because it's just a fact of life around here. You have homeless all the time, especially in that area where they have a row of trees, I believe, on that property, and you actually had 2 people hung themselves. So it's not the greatest area. Also, directly on the, quote, empty plot behind it, I believe you actually approved a older person's home, which is supposed to be in there. It seems to be they're doing some work on it. I don't know. And maybe they bought the plot next to it. I'm not quite sure about that. So hopefully that plot's going to be filled with something, because what people do right now on that parking lot to the west is they actually use that dirt area and drive all the way through as a unofficial road. And of course, at our apartment facility, we do have kids, etc. And bicycles, I really don't see any people bicycling around there except a few homeless. So just my observation as being around there all the time. Anyway, it looks like a nice plan, and we'll see what happens. I'm really not sure on the economics of it, because you had another marijuana dispensary on the corner of Heacock and Sunnymead, which closed. And from looking at the Santa Ana location, which I actually went to, because the best way to see what's going on is actually visit their place, it seems to be a higher-end Nordstrom's type place, which I just don't quite see how it fits here, but that's my opinion. Anyway, interesting. We'll see.
Thank you. Any other speakers?
No, sir.
Okay. That I'll close the public hearing and open this up for deliberations for the commission.
It should be a great project. We're finally going to get something built on Sunnymead Boulevard that hasn't been built in many, many years. Hopefully the tone of the building will have great colors. We're going to have a lot of lighting for sure there. So hopefully that will discourage some of the homeless from hanging out around that area, because I went by to look at it. So, you know, and I did hear the resident and his concerns. But the good thing about the cannabis industry, with the federal law and state law and our own local laws, we require security, surveillance, cameras. We ask for all that in all these projects that come before us to ensure that the residents that live by it are safe at all times. And I believe this project, being built from the ground up, has the greatest opportunity to put the most sophisticated technology of equipment in it. That's what I like about projects that are being built from the ground up. But I also like the last one that's going to take something old and make it nice. So we have 2 great things that came before us, and I look forward to this project. Hopefully locals will do a fine job, but what's most is that we'll continue to make Sunnymead Boulevard one of our prime goals to revise, you know, because it's been around for many, many years, and a lot of us drive up and down the street and see it not taken care of the way it should. And I'm glad that this project decided to move in to Moreno Valley and build something from the ground up.
I'd echo that as well. I think the city's made a significant investment to try to improve Sunnymead Boulevard with the street improvements and whatnot. And it's a real shame that there hasn't been more redevelopment or new development along that road. So my hat's off to you guys to build a new building over there, and hopefully that, you start building it and people will come, and do more over there, because those are all a lot of old buildings, and maybe if they see the potential with new buildings along there, you might get more. So I think that's a good cooperation. The city's made a big investment for that area. Kind of reminds me of in Riverside, University Avenue, that it's taken a long time, but they're slowly, with the magnet of as the anchor of the school down there, working west now back towards the freeway on the 91. That's it's slowly turning over, and that's good for that whole zone. Hopefully, this is a starter for Sunnymead Boulevard.
Yeah, I too, in conjunction with that, because you get new projects like this and it's new construction, you're gonna, we can start building from there, because we do need a revitalization in that area. I've been here for a long time, and all I've seen is a lot of dilapidation, and I wasn't even aware that recycling, I thought they had closed it down, but I guess it's still up and running, but it is an eyesore. So hopefully, I'm all for it, because new construction, we need it.
Yeah, and you couple this and you get some synergy going between here and then on the other side on what's the street where they put the new floor decor. You start getting enough things going out there that might be enough to maybe pull some of that area up. So that's good. Any other comments, deliberations, motions?
Chair, before there's a motion, if I might step in for a second, I have a slight amendment I'd like to propose here to the draft resolutions that you have before you.
Right.
If I can direct your attention to the end of the staff report where the staff recommendation section is located. The very first recommendation certifying the master plot plan categorically exempt from CEQA. I'd like to amend resolution 2019-45 to add that language to the resolution. It's not currently, it was just inadvertently, I think, absent from that resolution. So if there's a motion to be made adopting both resolutions 2019-45 and 2019-46 as amended, it would simply include that CEQA, we would simply include that CEQA notification in 2019-45. Does that make sense?
Sort of. I'm not going to make the motion, but what about where do we note about this change in the hours from 9 to 6? Where's that at?
Was there a change? Sorry, I was wrapped up in this issue here, so I may have missed that.
If there is a recommended change to condition number 12 of resolution, that'll be 46, then that will too need to be noted, and you'll need to state what the amended hours are, whether it is intended to be 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. or any variation thereof.
Okay, so, and then, thank you. And can you explain one more what you were trying to do there?
Yes, the staff report is correct and has all of the information on it. Unfortunately, staff report recommendation number 1 on the staff report is missing from the actual resolution 2019-45. So if you're adopting everything in the staff report as written, we just want to make sure that the final resolution includes that language as well. If you want to see what's missing, if you look at resolution 2019-45, which is on packet page 60.
Okay.
If you go to the end of that resolution, which is packet page 60, you'll note that there's only one item there in the resolution, which is the master plot plan. There should also be the second item, which is the CEQA certification.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And so I'm simply suggesting that we amend in the final resolution the language that appears in your staff report under number 1, inserting it into that resolution.
Okay, I think I got it. If you want me to try the motion. You want me to try it? All right.
If you read the staff report, staff recommendations as written, then that will cover it.
All right, I'm going to make a motion that the Planning Commission, 1, certify the master plot plan, PEN 190209, is categorically exempt from the provisions of the California Environmental CEQA, California Environmental Quality Act as a Class 32 exemption. 2, adopt Resolution 2019-40-45 and approve the master plot plan, PEN 190209, based on the findings contained in the resolution and subject to the conditions of approval, including Exhibit A. 3, certify the CUP PEN 0076 is categorically exempt from the provisions of CEQA as Class 32 exemption. And 4, adopt Resolution 2019-46 as amended in Condition 12 to change the time from 9 o'clock to 6 o'clock, and thereby approve conditional use permit PEN 19-0076 based on the findings contained in the resolution and subject to the conditions of approval, including Exhibit A.
Second that.
Okay. All right, we have a first and a second, and let's vote. Look at that, we did it, 7-0. All right, do we have a staff report?
Yes, Chair Sims, this action taken by your commission also is an appealable action. Therefore, any interested party who would like to file an appeal may do so within 15 days of this action. If an appeal is filed, it must be in writing, must be directed to the Community Development Director, and must state the specific reasons for the appeal, along with the appealing, of course, carrying an appeal filing fee of $750. If any appeal is received within that time, it will be agendized for public hearing before the City Council within 30 days.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we don't have any other agenda items, so the next item is staff comments. Do we have any comments?
I don't, no.
Thank you. Any commissioner comments? So then, well, I wish everybody a happy holidays. That's because we won't be here until it says December 26th. So
Christmas, huh?
everybody have a happy holidays. I adjourn this meeting at 8:05.